Nick's your son. So most of you know me. My name is Chris Miller. I'm a physical therapist. I do have a doctorate degree. That's what a lot of the schools are doing now. I have a doctorate. It's not a PhD. It's a physical therapy doctorate. I grew up in Charlotte, college at Georgia, which we're having a University of. We're having a decent football season. Decent. You know, the other shoe's going to drop at some point, I think. So we'll see. We'll see. Graduate physical therapy school in Charleston, South Carolina, MUSC, and then met my wife there, and that's why we're here, because she grew up in Winter Park, went to Trinity, so that's how I ended up here. Started playing golf, I think right after Tiger won the '97 Masters, and I was in the middle of playing year-round baseball, and I was shredding my arm, and I couldn't feel it after I pitched 6 innings. And so I said, you know, maybe take a break. And then I watched Tiger, and I said, oh, that looks fun. That's not going to destroy my arm. Let me go do that. Yeah, it'll destroy your arm, right? So, you know, starting out, I worked at major chain therapy clinics, right? You see 15 people a day, 2 or 3 an hour, assembly line, move them through. It's not fun. It's not fun for me, it's not fun for the patients, because at any given time, I'm saying, hey Doug, I want you to do these 3 sets of 10. Greg, we're gonna do this, you know, and I'm rotating on through, and that's my hour, and that's my day. It's not quality for you, it's not quality for me, and nobody ends up like enjoying the experience. So that's why I started the practice the way I did. You know, one-on-one attention, the way you deserve it, the way that it's better for me, and combining my passion of golf and helping people. This is exactly why we started out here. So obviously, the main thing we're going to talk about today is back, but we can fix everything. The biggest thing that I want to start with, and a lot of people say they want to get better at golf, but they're leaving out a big component, right? Because if you really want to play your best, you need custom fit equipment. You need your swing mechanics to be grossly pretty good. You need a good short game, course management. Can't get too down on yourself with bad shots, right? This is the piece that everyone forgets. And which one is this?
Well, I would imagine some form of physical fitness.
Exactly. It's your body. It's being properly flexible and mobile and strong. And really, these can make so much of an improvement in your game so quickly that it's actually pretty shocking that it's neglected so often. But what you see in the pros, you see Bryson, you see Tiger started it, really.
Yeah.
Tiger started this on tour. Now everyone's doing it. Now
Right.
all the pros have a swing guy, a mental guy, a short game guy, a putting guy, and they have a physical therapist. So this is really the full picture of how do I play my best. If you neglect any one of these, you can't maximize. Doug's done a great job of that over the past 6 months. Really been able to maximize, and it's very cool to see. Causes of pain. Why do you think you have pain? What have people told you? Anybody?
Well, I got it before it's fine. I got, chiropractor actually showing me something. That's congenital, but it's probably swing mechanics, but as well. But
Okay.
Disc problems,
Disc.
yeah, bad.
We're gonna have a deformed spine.
oh, and I probably don't know how to stretch.
disc. Asher, why do you think some people have back pain?
Improper form, around in your shoulders.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you write a little smaller there, I'll need a microscope to see it here. Improper technique of what?
Of anything.
Could be stretching, could be swinging.
It could be how you sit at your desk
Right.
with the computer. Monitor level's a big thing.
Do that too.
It could be swing mechanics. It's usually swing mechanics. It's a brutal, I mean, if you really think about it, it's a brutal movement.
Yeah, oh, it is. Those-
It's one of the most brutal moves, and really it's, in no other aspect of life do you have rotation of your body. You don't have it when you sleep, when you walk, nothing. And then all of a sudden you go to the course and you're like, okay, let's go. Let's just rotate this way really fast, dozens of times, and let's hope it goes well without anything breaking down. So your body your body isn't really prepared or conditioned to do what you're asking it to do when you play golf. And that's one of the biggest things. So going back to this real quick. X-rays. Disc problems. These are things that for decades radiologists and physicians have told us are the reason that we have pain. New studies that are coming out, and I have the numbers on my phone, which Asher's using. They've done studies on people that don't have back pain. They've done x-rays, they've done MRIs. And what they did was, okay, you're 30, you're 40, you're 50. What's the incidence of a disc bulge, a disc height loss, a arthritis in your spine, all of these things. Everything that, people will say, that's why I have pain. And every 10 years, the rate of that goes up by about 12%. So if you're 40, there's I think it's like 30% chance that you have a disc problem. If you're 50, there's a 42% chance you have a disc problem.
Keep going.
And on and on and on and on. There's no one older than that in here. So the normal findings on an x-ray very likely could be this. Very likely could be this. So, if people have x-rays with arthritis, misalignment, but they're not having pain, where's the pain coming from? Right? And that's where this really starts coming into play. 9 out of 10 people I work with, they have pain because muscles are too tight, or muscles are too weak, or both, right? You're gonna see through various things that you do throughout your day, certain muscles are getting very shortened, right? So if you sit at a desk, pecs are gonna be very tight, hamstrings are gonna be very tight, hip flexors are gonna be very tight. But in golf, you need to be able to do the opposite of what all those are doing. We have to be able to go here, and everything that's tight from sitting is getting stretched out in a way it's not used to being stretched out. So, pain comes from tightness, pain comes from weakness, and if you correct that muscle imbalance, almost like a tug of war, if you recenter the tug of war, everything balances back out. What you're gonna see is, and it's usually the same muscle groups that affect your back though. Hip flexors, piriformis is a nice one. Lumbar extensors and obliques, certainly hamstrings. And that's some of what we're gonna kind of test here
What about abdomen?
in a second. What's that?
What about abs?
Certainly. That's where the weakness comes in. That's the weak portion. which of course is where this power has to come from with your swing, right? It should not be an arm swing, right? This should be a body rotation swing. And that's where this has to be able to generate the force required.
Right, and that's, right, and as I keep trying to do that, it hurts after I play, when I try to move my body, cause I always, even swimming, I do mainly arms, you know, I
Yes.
kick a little, but not anything to carry me anywhere.
Exactly. And so that's doing a couple things, even with swimming.
Yeah,
You're stretching your shoulders more than they need to be stressed. And you're also not maximizing your speed potential or just your
right,
efficiency of movement. So swimming's a good example. Something that should be stressing most of your body pretty equally, if you're not using this, it's all going to shoulders, it's all going to pecs and lats and all that stuff.
Right.
And same with golf. If your chest and hips aren't moving and you're just doing this, you're losing a ton of distance. You're probably hitting weak, flary slices, and you're gonna end up staying very tight and very limited. But if you can transition that to where you're really rotating properly, nothing else is taking a ton of pressure. You're gonna hit it farther. You're gonna be more consistent, and there's less that can go wrong. So, any questions so far? Okay, we'll do a couple tests here to see
Okay.
what's tight, what isn't tight, what can be worked on. And that's part of what's on this. So, actually we're gonna start with internal rotation of your hip. So sitting right there, I'll show you guys this. I'm gonna see. Ashley, try this too. Doug, try this too. If you're sitting like this, how far can you go out like that without
that's it.
leaning?
What leg or which?
Start with the right. Yep, and then do the other one. Left looks a little tighter there. Is that what you feel?
I feel it right in my hip when I do that. This one.
I can't get past the chair.
Let me see it. And left. Ooh,
Yeah, terrible.
that looks good.
Yeah, that looks great.
Doug?
Yeah, but you cheated.
A little cheat there, but
No, I'm only
pretty
kidding.
good. Right side?
Look at you. Wow.
Right's a little snug. It is. We'll talk. Right's a little snug. Okay. So, it's an odd movement, right? When do you ever have to do that? Well, you don't have to do that specific movement, but where that comes into play in the swing is in two very important parts. So, right hip, if you're right, are you right-handed? Play right-handed? You're lefty? So you're reverse
That's the
Mickelson?
problem.
Reverse Mickelson?
Oh, really? He's right in?
He's a righty, but he plays lefty because he was doing, he was copying his dad's swing in the garage when he was 5 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, his dad was righty, but he was like doing the mirror image of him.
Oh.
So dad would go here, and so little Phil would be standing there and like just try to copy him. That's why he swings lefty. So internal rotation of your hip comes into play right here. At the top of your backswing, this right hip is internally rotated. And if that can't go far enough, that ends up looking like this. So even just limited hip motion in one spot limits backswing, I don't know, 10, 15, 20%, which probably does the same for distance. So just opening that up has a huge effect on how much you can go, right? And there's actually a trick, I think I've told you, Cheryl, but there's a trick that you can play around with that in the short term, and it's really just turning your feet out.
Yeah.
Right? So if and I'll show you what I mean by that. So if I'm square and my feet are pointed, perpendicular to target line, I can get, that's pretty decent, right? But if I go 45 degrees out, now, what is that, an extra
Yeah.
10-20% of rotation? I haven't changed anything about my hip. So if you feel like your turn is a little bit limited, and maybe it's a hip or back thing, test that out like with some air swings.
Yeah, it's helped me a lot.
That's big. That's very big, and it'll take pressure off your back too.
Yeah.
So give it maybe 30-45 degrees out. The first time you try to hit balls, it might be a little weird. You might thin or fatten a couple, but after a while, you're gonna feel like you have more movement. And certainly coming through, if the left hip is limited, which looks like yours is a little limited on the left compared to the right, that makes it hard to get all the way through, right? So again, if that left hip is limited, it might end up looking like this, or you're gonna, maybe get extra armsy and almost have like a fake full finish because you can't.
Well, you can't,
Rotate.
you can't, if your back is bothering you, you really can't stay down through the swing. Cause you compensate, I guess.
That's exactly right. I mean, the body's very good at compensating, even without you knowing that you're
Right.
doing it, right? I mean, so many, even here, tour pros. Jordan Smith just talked about his last 3 years. He, what did he say? He had a wrist thing going on, probably 2 years ago, and he changed his swing very subtly so that it wouldn't mess his wrist up. What's that?
Probably to avoid pain.
That's exactly right. And so he went from number 1 to like number 187 or whatever it was that he bottomed out at. It's crazy. So, and that's a pro that made a minor compensation to avoid pain. So, of course, for us, if we just fix these compensations, it can make a huge difference. So, that's just one. And obviously you can see on the full tune-up sheet here. Yeah, 1 and 2. We have 14 things we look at, but that's, hip internal rotation, very important. Next thing I want you guys to do while you're sitting here. So I'm gonna have you do this. You want a club right here as you're sitting, and then turn as far as you can right, and as far as you can left. Do you notice the difference one side versus the other?
Sure.
What's different?
Oh, I think it's easier for you to turn this way. No,
So,
pretty much the same. Maybe a little bit more, a little easier this way.
And that one's.
I'm getting my arm up in the air first.
Well, and that's another part of it too.
Should
That's
be.
the
Oh, yeah.
that's the shoulder part of this. But yeah,
Right.
even if even getting the club here
It's a
stuff,
big deal.
that's something that needs to be worked on too, because this is a back sidetrack, but this motion again, like, what do we need that for?
Yeah.
In the golf swing, what you need that for is you need it right here.
Yeah.
If your shoulder can't get here, I have guys that, their shoulders kind of stuck here, and their swing looks like this,
Right.
right? So now you're in this super upright situation where either you're gonna
All kinds of
slice it,
Right.
or you're gonna be here and you're gonna somehow figure out a way to drop it down, and then you're doing this number, and you're gonna put one off the planet left and right. So, and that's just with shoulder motion not being able rotate the way it needs to be. And this, of course, the same coming through. You need this one to come here to be able to finish. And if that's not there, then you look like this, right? So now if you just have tight shoulders, your swing looks like this, and you're probably half the distance that you could potentially generate. Minor sidetrack here. Thoracic rotation, internal rotation. All right, can you guys stand up, please? Next 3 good ones. Doug, let me give you a little pole here. A little stretching pole. Here's the speed stick for you.
Oh, in front?
Yes, so this is going to be hips. This is going to be hips. So come out in front like this,
Okay.
kind of in driver stance posture. Now, what I want you to do is keep your chest pointing forwards and just rotate your hips as far as they go. Good, and the other side. How are you looking? Anything tight?
Of course it's tight was my middle name.
I've seen that as growing older, stiffness comes in the hips, right through here, first.
Yes.
And that's the first thing that tight in my body.
Yes.
I know I've had an extensive orthopedic history, I'll save you the laundry list, but I started working with this guy about 7 months ago, and I was tight everywhere, I've had a litany of back issues,
Yeah,
and
I'm telling you,
he's done wonders.
a miracle. And I've only been coming to him for a month, but few things that I'm still very tight. But,
Well, and that's the big part of it too. Is a lot
so
of
is this a good exercise to do?
it can be. So there's really 2 ways to go about it, right? So if you're trying to open up more,
Flexibility, be
yes.
more mobile in my body, right?
Correct. So a lot of people use these interchangeable. They're actually not interchangeable. Flexibility really just kind of refers to muscle length, right? Mobility is more about how much can your joint move through the range that it's supposed to move through. Now, there are a lot of people that are very tight in, hip flexors, for example, right? Which makes it hard to extend back this way or
Right.
extend this way.
Right.
But there may not actually be anything wrong with your hip joint. It's just that the muscles connected to the hip joint are restricting the motion because they're not flexible. So, some people have muscle restrictions, some people have true joint restrictions. And the key is teasing out which one is which, and you know how to address each. Because flexibility is addressed by prolonged holds, that's your 30 seconds, your minute, in a position that's addressing that muscle specifically, right? So hip flexors is going to be this way. The rotation is the one that we're doing where you're twisting,
Right.
right? So that's what's going to open up this movement as far as freeing up the flexibility. And then coming in on the back end of that to open up the joints more is where you kind of start doing one of these.
Right.
And making it more of a fluid movement. So that was pelvic rotation. And just because I forgot this, people love this.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that.
Right? I have back pain because I'm old. No, not necessarily. Or my hips are tight because I'm old. Not necessarily. It's actually more of this and this it is true that your muscle is less, let's go with malleable, right?
Right.
When you're older. You know, you see kids can
Yeah.
jump off your couch and land on a beanbag chair, and they're like, "Whoa, that was fun. Let me
They
do it
can
again."
land on the floor.
They land on the floor.
Me
They're-
too, when I was a kid.
Oh.
I said I don't bounce like I used to.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, they're
I don't
basically
bounce.
they're made of rubber, right? And their bones are, the growth plates are open, so they're just, you know, very, very malleable, let's go with, right? But as you get older, the soft tissue and the muscle tissue legitimately like just becomes more brittle. That's just what it does. So that is a physiological change that we can't affect. But everything that's connected to that, we can. So we can keep the muscles lengthened properly. We can keep them strong. And that gives them, you know, Tom Brady talks about pliability, right? Which is a made up term with his trainer, but the concept is valuable. The concept is very valuable. And then, you know, coming back to arthritis too, everyone over 30 has a degree of arthritis in most joints.
Right.
It's actually what the arthritis does that creates your pain. So in the back, if certain movements start hurting, you start not doing them, which is a proper
Right.
compensation.
Right.
But by not doing those movements, you're allowing it to get tighter and tighter and tighter. And so every year, if you're 2% tighter in 10 years, that's a pretty big difference that you almost didn't even notice was happening, but all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, what are we doing here? Why is this so locked up? I could just last year or whatever, I could do whatever I wanted, and now, you know, simple things just really get me locked up. So again, all of this stuff comes back to, do you have the proper length of muscles? Does your joint move as much as you can? How strong are you in the movements you need to be? Sidetrack. So we did this, we did this, we did this. Last two, standing up. Let's see how this looks. Can you guys, how far can you go this way? I know you can go. You can go how far I go. Yeah, palm the floor. Palm the floor. Oh, that's actually not bad. Okay.
Stretch.
I can't get up real good, but.
Maybe that's the one thing I do right.
That's incredible.
Incredible.
That's actually incredible. So Asher, show your.
Show your talent that you get down on your
I used to be able to
palms.
do that.
Okay.
I never.
This is
I
good
used
too.
to be able to put my head between them. Can you put your head
Yeah.
between your legs? There you go, okay.
Hockey player.
I used to be able to do that.
You
How old are
said-
you?
18.
Oh, gee. I did when I was 40.
Wow. Okay. So this is actually. Perfect. Perfect way to describe it. So, you used to be able to palm the floor, right? Like with Asher's doing? You said
Never.
never. I've never been able to do that.
No.
Right? So, people that can palm the floor, hypermobile, right? Your ligaments, the way that you were born, your DNA says that your ligaments can stretch more than someone else's, which is what allows you to go this far. Some of this is about being loose here and in your back, but some of it is just your hip and your back move more than they're supposed to. Other people can never get down to the floor and they kind of stop here. And those are the people that are hypomobile. Neither of these is a good or bad thing, it just is what it is. It's like brown hair or, you know, red hair, it just is what it is. People that are hypermobile, you're gonna be more prone to shoulder dislocation, ankle sprains, sometimes you can have some kneecap problems, either dislocation or patellofemoral problems. Back and neck problems too, like especially with the back being too mobile. And if you get into a position where, you know, it's not used to going and it's not strong enough to support, you can start having some spasms because your body's aware that your back is moving too much and it's locking up to prevent it from moving enough to do damage to your spinal cord and peripheral nerves and all that kind of thing. So, people who are hypermobile need to be stable everywhere: back, shoulders, knees, hips, to prevent, you know, dislocations and further injury. That doesn't mean you can't be tight also. You can be tight for you, whereas, you know, let's say tight for you is kind of here on the flexibility spectrum, and really tight people at their best maybe come up to that, but you're still tight for you. So that's something that has to be addressed. Asher, we've talked about his knees and stuff, about hypermobility, which is important. It's always important. It's just something, it's good to know, like, I'm hypermobile as well. That's just what it is. You gotta know what it is.
Hypo.
Hyper. More mobile than normal. Yes,
You are?
I am.
You said you couldn't touch the floor,
No, well,
or palms on the floor. Oh, okay.
I mean, I don't stretch like on a regular basis.
You're a
and I can
physical
just-
therapist, you don't throw shit.
Well,
Just
I'm-
kidding.
Always do as I say, not as
because
I
I'm
do.
hyper.
There you go.
Well, but look, you know, this is, so if you go like this with your shoulders, how far do they go?
Back, you mean? How far back? Yeah.
Right there. Right. So this is what hypermobile looks like.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean like this, you say, or throw the elbows back or the hands back?
It's really about
The
how
whole
far back
arm,
is the hand.
I
not
feel
the
it.
elbows.
I feel it.
Yeah.
It's not- I'm feeling it here.
Pretty good, Doug.
That's pretty good.
But you notice how you're here and
Yeah.
then there.
You spread
Which
your
is
elbows
cheating,
out.
right?
Spread your elbows.
It's gotta be here, a little better. Now you're getting the back into it, right? Right, cause you.
Yeah, you
you're
are.
going- You're like here and you go,
It's natural.
oh, we're gonna get it back there.
Your
But you and I
compensation.
have talked about this, talk about the compensation factor.
Yeah, just-
And how that affects your hypo versus your hypermobility.
Yes, I mean, everybody's really good at compensating. And what you're gonna end up doing is you're gonna avoid positions where your body isn't stable, which ultimately in life is good because you prevent injury, but in golf, it's limiting your potential with distance, consistency, and injury prevention. So really it's about, if you're too tight, you balance it out, getting more flexible and mobile. If you're too loose, yes, you can be tight, but it's really about strength in the right areas. And it's just all about balance and specifically working on the things that you need to work for. Like, you know, a lot of the exercises that golfers need to work on are the same for everyone, but the dosing of them, if you will, is very different depending on the
The
person.
emphasis.
Exactly. Last one. This is my favorite one. I'm gonna give you.
You see that on every first tee.
What's that?
What you're about to do, you see on every first tee.
Yes. Yes.
You see
That's
people do it on
exactly.
every first tee.
People that didn't hit balls. People that are.
Or on every driver.
Coming in hot.
That's coming in hot. That's exactly right. All right. So, I'm gonna. This is what we're gonna try. Same position. So if it's hard to get there, you know,
Yeah.
shoulder needs work. Driver stance. How far can you go in the backswing range? then how far can you go in downswing?
Okay.
Doug, that's getting there.
Yeah, that's good.
That's getting
It's
there.
all 'cause of you, man.
That's good. Do you feel a difference left versus right for you?
I think I'm better in the, rotating to the left.
Okay.
I think that was, I was getting a little yeah, a little bit.
Okay. Is it painful going one direction or just doesn't go?
Well, I've got pain right now on the lower right side of my back. I mean, I pulled something there, and I've been living with that for several weeks now, but it just doesn't go. I'm hearing kind of a little bit of crunching.
Okay. Ooh, crunch in the spot that's sore.
Well, no,
Or just
it wasn't the shoulder. I mean, I haven't got any shoulder problems, I'm aware of. Not really. I mean, no, I haven't, no, I heard it once, I stretch it this morning, I stretch pretty much every morning, but
Yeah.
probably not properly, probably not enough, but, I stretch every morning.
That's good. So you're the type of person that if we have you doing the right things, a lot's gonna get better really quickly. Because your habit, your routine is already in place to, okay, like, if it's morning, if it's nighttime, I'm gonna do these things to get loose, these things to get strong. And that's really what it's all about. You know, I can come up with the perfect plan for someone. If they're not doing it, it's not gonna work. Right? Just like a doctor writing the script for blood pressure medicine. If you don't take it, you're gonna have a stroke. Like, it's just what it is. So the combination of these 5 is gonna expose something that's either limiting your swing, potentially causing pain. All can be improved upon very easily. And then again, like with the shoulder thing, it doesn't even have to be that you have pain. That joint can still be limiting your potential. I have a guy that I'm working with. Take this. I have a guy that I'm working with. Never mentioned once about his shoulders. I asked him to come up here. That's as far as we're going. I stretch him a little bit farther, and it's just all pecs. And again, his swing looks right here, right here. Never had shoulder problems, but his shoulder motion is a problem for his golf swing, and it's a problem for his distance. He said, what did he say? He's a 13 handicap, and he can't reach par 4s and 2. Par 4s, can't reach them in 2. He's so tight, so tight. Now he's already gaining, a few yards, but he does. He does. He really does. Which again is a compensation, right? I can't get to the green in 2, so like let me figure out how to chip this to 2 feet.
Well, that was the same with me.
Yeah.
I focused on my short game because I knew I couldn't hit the ball very far.
But what if that could change?
Doesn't matter. I enjoy it whatever minute.
Yeah. Well, it is. That's
If it does, it does. If it doesn't, I still have fun.
That's the best thing about golf, right? Who was it? Was it Bob Hope? He was like, golf and sex are the only 2 things you can be terrible at and still love doing. It is what it is. So,
Can I step away for a second?
yes, absolutely.
I'm fine.
Absolutely. What time we got? Ooh, right on time. Right on time. Was any of that new?
What?
Was any of this
Yeah, I think
New?
yeah.
Doug? Any of it new?
Yes,
Helpful?
The
yes.
stretching is, I still have trouble stretching on my own and do it wrong. I know I do it wrong or
Yeah.
whatever. If you're not exactly, stretching the way you need to, you have a problem.
works. So
You're 18, you're supposed to be able to do that.
come down here, get in like your hockey stance, right? Now rotate. Yeah, but don't let your head go crazy. Keep your head. Go back to the starting position. Don't move your head. That's it. Now the other way. Don't move your head. That's it. There you
I find that
go.
when
Lot of movement there.
when I try to swing through the ball, which I'm, have to work on for years, whatever, that's a strain on my back. When you take the club, the ball's here, and you go from here to here to here, down, like coming through it, that's the strain that gets my back. No, you're not coming up that soon. I mean, you hit the ball and you really need to stay, see you come through it and then come up.
It's not bugging you with a lot of like everyday stuff, right? It's mostly just
Yeah,
the golf, and that kind of keeps it flared up.
yeah,
So that sounds like a mechanics thing potentially, right? And we've talked about this a little bit, but a lot of times, like if the tendency is to be back, almost to get more height on the ball, when you're here, there's a real strong compression in your low back on the
Yeah.
right if your weight is back. And a lot of times, usually what helps is kind of just shifting more of that weight.
oh, I
This way?
lean forward a lot when I play, cause I have a tendency to come up because of my back.
Well, that's almost the, have you ever heard of stacking tilt?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I, just as an example, I've had 6 knee operations, and when I was coming back from those injuries, I basically did that, which is most of the weight is on your left
Yeah.
leg, and it takes your right side out of it to come, so
Right,
so you're already here
Yeah.
in the swing.
yeah, but it's like, here's the ball and you're really aiming for that spot there because the ball's on the way to that spot. And so it makes me stay down because I have a tendency to come up mainly because of my back.
Yes. Yeah, and that's one of the things that I think is really good to have like a communication with the teaching pro too, like Brandon, I think is like, hey, this is what we're seeing with, mostly no back problems with a lot of things, but getting through the ball especially is a real problem. So usually when it's isolated to a really specific part of the swing, it's something about mechanics that, I know the very basics of it, but I would not, try to teach anyone to swing other than my 4-year-old.
Right.
But a lot of times that's, if the back pain is kind of always there to a degree, it's a general thing that needs to be fixed. If it's like, I don't have back pain except for this one spot right here, that's a potential
but
mechanics thing.
The other side of it is that I hit it so much further.
Yeah.
So I'd rather hit it further and be in pain.
Well, and it might not be even a big fix, right? So,
Yeah.
maybe, and probably what it needs to be is like really slow motion video, because when you're like, if you're coming through and maybe you're good to here, and then maybe when you get here, you try to stay down extra long, and then you end up being good to here, but at some point you end up shifting back. That could be a thing.
Yeah.
And it might just be about like letting your head
Yeah.
come up
It's a-
earlier.
I'm a work in progress.
But yeah, I don't pretend to know enough about the swing to be able to really fix that, obviously.
Yeah.
I actually want to give him a call and
Yeah.
we can discuss that.
Yeah.
We can have a combo session on the range and,
Right.
you know, see what he's seeing, and we can try to fix it from there. What else? Any questions?
No, it's good information.
Did we
That makes sense.
cover a lot of what you wanted to learn, Greg?
Yeah, where you test yourself and, you know, the areas of doing the pelvic rotation and stuff like that.
Yes. Yes, and today's probably the worst. If you do the right things, today's the worst that all of this will look. It's only gonna get better, you know?
Right.
Which means that swing gets better and distance gets better. Even if you don't change anything measurable about your mechanics, even if you just open up more motion for it to go through, like this, you know, the foot trick, right? If they're square, you go to here. If they're open,
Yeah.
you go to here, and I didn't change any mechanics.
And you don't, right, and you don't hurt yourself as much.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. Because that's just as much about what it is, you know.
right.
Even if your back isn't hurting now, 80% of golfers will have back pain at some point in their career, right? I have like a little thing over here that won't let go. We're getting through it, but there's always a thing. So it's just as much about preventing like debilitating stuff where you have to quit, right? I think a lot of people get to the point where like, do I have to stop playing? This is pretty brutal, right? And that's the whole like, that's the play forever piece, right? Let's make it so that you don't have to quit because your body is properly prepared for what you're asking it to do.
Okay.
And even if you don't want more distance, it just happens. It just happens, right? Right down.
Yeah, it just happens.
Is lifting weights good or bad for golf swing?
Lifting the right type of weights in the right motions is very good.
It's very good.
Is very
But
good.
it could be detrimental as well.
It could be.
Probably is if you don't know how to do it right, you're probably
Correct.
doing it wrong.
Correct. So some of the motions that are excellent, squats are excellent, deadlifts are excellent if done properly.
That's true.
Rotation, which we've done a little bit of,
Yeah.
like rotation to really work core is excellent. Anything pushing and pulling is excellent. So,
Bench press is good, military press is good,
you know,
curls is good,
crunches,
curls,
curls, neutral.
neutral.
Neutral. Biceps aren't a big muscle group involved in the swing. They're more passive. If it was
Sit-ups?
No. Sit-ups, no. Sit-ups definitely
Sit-ups
no.
are
Actually,
terrible.
crunches.
It's bad because if you, first of all, if you don't do it right, it can really damage your back. It really.
Well, maybe that's what's happening.
That's correct. Because so
Maybe that's a sit-up.
that's why
Yeah.
I used to do lots, I do that.
there's been what is it? Maybe 10 or 15 years they stopped emphasizing sit-ups in a lot of like school PE programs and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Because they started really looking at the mechanics of it, and if you do a full sit-up, the last half of it is actually just hip flexors yanking your back up. It's not actually core after the first half, right? But your hip flexors, the same muscle that does this, connects to the very front of your lumbar vertebrae. So the way that the last part of the sit-up goes, it's your hip flexor pulling your low back.
Right,
forward.
like when we,
Well, that's what
when
we
I
do.
stand on one, if you stand on one leg like we do and pull it back this way, you really are using the stomach muscles. So, and that's the key, I think, to strengthening your core is using the stomach muscles when you do exercise, you know, to make sure you're putting them in play.
Correct. What were you saying just now? About
Oh, I said, the only exercise that I've ever done for my abdomen, for my core is sit-ups.
yes.
And I have what feels like a muscle pull right here. And this is not the first time it's happened, and that could be caused by pulling on
Yeah.
the sit-ups,
Absolutely.
because I do them all the time.
100%.
I used to do lots of them.
Now, it's exercise is a good thing for the body generally, but in the wrong, in the wrong application can create problems, right? So, and ultimately, even the crunch, even the abbreviated sit up, right? The crunch just works your six pack, and that's the muscle provides no stability to your back at all. It's a mirror muscle, right? You want a
Look in the
beach
mirror.
muscle. It's a beach muscle, right? The only thing that muscle does right there is brings your rib cage closer to your hips. That's all it does. There's no stability factor there.
Well, the reason why I did it was to strengthen my lower back, so I wouldn't have back pain.
So the intent,
And it seemed to work, because I hadn't had back pain, 30 years ago,
yes,
because I did a lot of driving. I
yes.
had extreme back pain, I couldn't get out of bed. And I went to a chiropractor, and that's where I found out my spine was tilted. And I started doing sit-ups and things like that, thinking that that was gonna help. I never had that back pain again. No, but I do pull my back. I never had to go to a chiropractor again,
That's good.
but it's maybe not the right thing for me, especially as I get older. Or
Yeah.
maybe not full sit-ups.
I mean, if you like, definitely not full sit-ups. If you like crunches, have at it. But if the goal is, I want my back to be stronger, I want my core to be more stable, I want to prevent future injuries, that's not what's going to do it.
Well, that's what I want, and that's the message you're getting across.
Yeah.
It's,
And it's
not only exercising and stretching, it's doing it correctly, especially if you want to improve your golf game.
100%.
You have to, and I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I want to stay out of pain,
Right.
and if I improve my golf game in the process, wonderful.
Really, a lot of people, what they've said is, I don't wake up at night anymore because of pain, or I can get out of a chair without pain, or I can play with my kids or grandkids without pain. And they're like, oh, I'm longer, but like mostly it just doesn't bug me all the time. And really, that's all of this stuff happens at the same time, more or less, right? And depending on what the real goal is, that's what that's what we really focus on. But it all kind of happens. If you get looser, you're going to have less pain, and you have more motion in your swing. If you get stronger, you can do a lot more activities, and you're just going to end up creating more force in the swing. So all of it comes together, and it's a really cool thing to see. To be honest with you, very cool. What else? Any questions? Asher, did you learn some PT today?
Wrestling, yeah. Free time.
He wants to go to school for PT. Doug, how are you doing?
It's a process.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, just, where we started, where it ended. And it's something you just have to keep in mind, that it's every day, and you just keep building and building and building. It's not gonna happen overnight.
No.
Stretching, I would say stretching and exercise are the brushing and flossing of my profession. Okay?
I stretched and exercise all my life,
Yes.
and I don't think I have to be disciplined to do that. I just have to be shown the right way to do it.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And if you've been doing that all your life, you're gonna see huge benefits very quickly from just doing the right things. Actually, we can.
I've got a stretching pad in my office, I've got a stretching pad in my house.
Like one of these little yoga mat things?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got dumbbells in my house, I got dumbbells in my office, I've got a universal set in my office.
Bands, tubing.
No, I don't have that. I'll probably hurt myself with it. But,
I'll show you.
well,
I'll show
you know,
some
see,
stuff.
that's my point. I never thought bands and tubing were gonna be enough. I wanted to lift weights,
Sure,
you know.
sure,
And not because I wanted big muscles, I just wanted muscle tone. To be able to stand erect and be free from pain.
yes.
And to be fit, and to
Yeah.
be physically fit, and, you know, be free from
Absolutely.
pain.
So the biggest, the most beneficial way to gain strength, tone, whatever definition, isn't about like, you know, is it weights, is it not weights, is it machines, is it bands? The way that you do it isn't as important as loading it properly. So if you're doing, I don't know how you guys usually do some stuff, you do some like supersets of stuff sometimes, but if you're doing a weight that 10 reps of it, you're pretty tired, that's the gold standard, right? If you can do 30 of them, it's too light. If you can do 3, it's too heavy. But if you can do 10 and on the 11th rep, you're starting to lose form, it's getting a little sloppy, you're starting to compensate, that's the right weight. And if you know, if that's bands, great. If it's dumbbells, great. If it's the cable machine, great. Ultimately, you know, the way you get there isn't as important as proper loading. And so, you know, that's something we can go over too. What else? Any questions?
Nope, good.
It all makes sense.
I think so.
But you know my son, Chris?
We're in the Facebook group, the Orlando Golf Network.
Well, he recommended you to me.
Yes, yes.
And he was gonna come, except that he's gotta go out of town today. But he could use this as well, and he's 31. Cause I watched his swing yesterday,
Yeah.
and, you know,
I mean,
and he is a very, you know, he's
he's in
a,
shape.
yeah, well, he's decent shape, he's athletic, and,
Yeah,
but I can see with him, he hits the ball a long, long way.
yeah.
But I can tell just by watching him, he can hit it even farther. Of course, his ball flight is not good,
Yeah.
but he still hits it a long way because he's so strong. But he's not using the right muscles in every way.
That's
And he
exactly-
knows it, and, cause, you know, we talked about it, and he's not using his hips as much as he's strong up here. His muscles is what's.
He's trying to muscle the ball.
Well, that could hurt him if he does a
100%.
lot of it. I know, I can understand that.
100%.
And so he needs this as much as I.
And really what that does too, and I've checked this with 2 of my pros, so I know this is correct. You know, if you're a muscler or if you're an arm swinger, right, it's a lot harder to time that consistently, right? There's gonna be days where you're on
Well, there is
and-
no timing there. I mean,
Correct.
in terms of the correct timing, it's just timing with the arms and the
That's
shoulders.
exactly right. So that's,
His challenge is getting his hips, his shoulders, and his wrists to all work in proper sequence
exactly.
and proper speed.
So does he have
Synchronous speed.
some shots that go a little crazy left and then right, and like the dispersion pattern is kind of like really far, but sometimes pretty far in the trees?
Well, he's getting to the point where he's able to manage his dispersion pattern and keep it consistent.
That's good.
And, you know, but he's close. I mean, I don't know much about it. I mean, I think I do, but I wouldn't talk to anybody but my own son
Sure.
about what his golf swing is like, but, you know, I'm just saying is that you don't have to be getting up on age and having physical problems to benefit from what you're saying. You know, learning the right way to do something from the beginning is beneficial.
That's
And
exactly right.
so, you know, guys your age, what's your name?
Asher?
He said it over and over again. Asher, you know, learning the proper technique in hockey from the beginning is really important.
Yes, sir.
And
That's
the
exactly right.
proper way to lift weights and everything like that, what exercises to do. Same thing in golf. But like you said, it's only since Tiger Woods that even people think about physical conditioning. I mean, golfers now, these days, some of them look like really good athletes. But that never was the case.
They
I mean,
are.
they look like, you know, they eat donuts every day. I mean, a lot of them look like, you know,
Tim Herron.
look like,
John Daly,
Pat
Yeah.
Perez,
Pat Perez.
Well, we'll look at,
Harry Hayes.
what's his name, Reed, starts with an R, you know.
Patrick Reed.
Yeah, Reed. Yeah, Reed looks like that. He looks like a dump, you know, and, like Bill Burr, go for it. But,
Captain America.
but that was the average. That was the average golfer. But now some of them look, I mean,
That's right.
you know, Bryce and Tiger, and, I mean, a lot of them. I mean,
I think
There was
Dust.
such a discussion
Or
about
athletic.
that, you know, if you become too muscular, you really, your golf game can be affected by
That's
that.
right.
That you work out, you know, that you, becoming more muscular really probably affects your flexibility.
That's correct. But in a lot of times what it is like Brandel Chambly or someone like that talking about, oh, Rory's working out too much, right? And like, again, like, this is how you decide what's too much, right? Let's say,
you know, you gotta have a balance. You gotta strike the balance.
that's exactly right. Now this is why biceps are a problem, right? Like, if your biceps are too big, it's gonna be really hard
Right.
to get here. It's gonna be really hard to get here.
To extend, that's right.
Exactly. Same with chest. If you bench and you max out on bench, it's gonna be really hard to get back here. So really, if you ever see like big guys that play golf, their swing, like they're like gripping the life out of this thing, right? And they're doing
course
this
they do.
thing, and then they're like, you know, it's like this, but they can't. They don't have the hip and trunk rotation, and they don't have the shoulders. They just physically can't get there.
You know what I want? I want Freddie Couples.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
me too.
Butter.
I want
All
Freddie.
day butter.
And I
Right.
think I've got
Me
more of a
too.
weightlifter swing. And I want
It's
Freddie
possible.
Couples.
It's possible.
Well,
And that's where this is working. But so like to your point, it's not about lifting being bad. It's about what type of lifting are you doing, and
Exactly.
redirecting that to the right
Yeah,
things.
and, you know, over the years, I've learned that more reps and less weight is better than, more weight and less reps, so,
That's
you
generally
know,
true as you get older.
Huh?
That's
Yes.
generally true for anybody in general as you get older.
Right,
But every sport has its own exercise routine. They may use the same tools, but they use them differently.
right,
It makes sense that golf would have its own
Exactly.
set of instructions on how to use these tools to, you know, maximize your performance and minimize your chance for.
and I
getting hurt.
think flexibility helps your timing in golf.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because you're not thinking about that.
Right.
If nothing else, you can focus on your timing and not on your rotation or the pain you're getting or something.
I think a lot of where that benefit comes in is that when you're more flexible, you're not compensating as much, right? And the
Right.
compensations are what cause. Actually, so I
Either conscious or unconscious.
exactly. So I have a guy that he's a +2, your son's age, and I started working with him. And he hits it miles, right? But all he does is before I started, he does squats, he does deadlifts, and he does pull-ups and bench, right? So he didn't shake. He was a
That's
college
good. Those are all
college
good
pole
exercises.
vaulter.
He's what?
He's a college pole vaulter.
Okay.
You know, I've never met
Pull
one of
ups,
those in my
except for
life,
pull
but
ups.
that's what he was. But his swing, he gets to here, and then his trunk just stops going. He can't. So what he does is arm lift to the top, right? So then he's
Right.
pointing way over that way. And so now this is where the timing comes in. He's got to make sure that he unwinds and then drops that right in the right spot, or else he's got to flip, or else it's fat, or
Yeah.
all this stuff.
Exactly.
So about a month into us working together, he's rotating better here, and he doesn't have to arm lift. So now he's in a better position at the top, and he doesn't have to time it as much because he just rotates. And so now his dispersion is, cut by a third. But that's like what you were talking about. If you can move as much as you need to, you don't make compensations that cause your ball to go
Right,
all over the plant.
right.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. I think I'm the only one in here that doesn't work with you.
That's,
Because it sounds
yes,
like you do and you
Yeah.
have for a while, you're starting to.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you're trying to learn from them.
Yes, sir.
You don't need help. You're too young.
Sometimes I do.
But yeah, you know, of course you do. I said.
Maybe some minor tune-ups here and there.
Yeah, everybody learns,
Yeah.
needs to learn. technique.
Well-
But my question is, well,
Yes.
so how do you do it? I mean, what do we do?
So we start with taking a look at everything else here.
Maybe look at that.
And that's how we.
So it's an
create-
evaluation, starts with an evaluation of
Exactly.
what my
Exactly.
condition is, where I need help. Okay.
And then if, you know, you're saying that.
Oh, okay, here's the evaluation right
That's most of it.
there. Okay, so the first is the evaluation.
Evaluation, we figure out, you know, what all the stuff on there is it tight, is it painful, where that pain's coming from, we clean up that. And then it's, you know, everything in the tight column, let's work on it so it's in the normal column. And then every muscle group that's essential for creating stability in your back, stability in shoulders, speed in the swing, we start strengthening those.
And how long does this normally take?
About 20 years.
I hope I got that kind of time.
If you live that long, right?
Yeah, I hope I got that kind of time.
You know, it's very person dependent. Obviously, if you're the Tin Man starting out, it's going to take a little bit longer than if you're you know, just, you know, need minor tweaks. So that's part of what the evaluation is. And at the end of the evaluation, I can say, you know, hey Greg, we got to work on this, this, and this. It's going to take 4 weeks. It's going to take 12 weeks. It's going to
Is
take.
it normally a weekly visit? Is it normally?
Usually one time a week for an hour is excellent, and especially with
For at least for a period of time.
exactly, and especially with your sounds like excellent, you know, habit and routine of doing the stuff. It's not just, hey, I'm only going to do the stuff you need. I'm going to
If you're
give you.
supervising it.
Yes.
That'll be
Yeah, so it's, you know, let me come up with the homework so that you can continue this at home. And that's why it's really only one a week, is that, you know, first week it's do these few, next week we add, and then progressively you have your whole program that's good forever. And if you just stay on top of it,
occasional meeting for a tune-up if you want.
Yeah,
exactly.
you have to always rotate the tires.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Check the fluids, you know?
Check the fluid, rotate the tires.
Really thought of it like that. but yeah, I
New
guess you
spark
already-
plug.
Yeah.
Doug, how's your oil level?
That's kind of personal, isn't it?
You got some-
Yeah.
Got
Okay,
some
that's
synthetic.
Much too much information. All right, I'm out of there.
All right,
It was fun.
thanks for coming, Cheryl.
Oh, my pleasure. I'll see
Who are
you
your Bears
on
playing?
Tuesday. They're off this week, thank God, so it's not gonna be a problem.
That's awesome.
So